Here's a politician, yeah, okay. Right.
If I look at a very different perspective, I think that there have been business issues, there have been hiring decisions which go wrong, some go correct, and that will continue. We can't put a stop to that. What we need to realize is that whatever challenges that we face, one way of addressing that is to have these processes documented for all HR practices. If you have a proper flow chart, if it's process driven, then there's no issue because all stakeholders have given their input. For example, if it's hiring, let's say, for a position of a director or a vice president or a senior vice president, if the process is very clearly laid down and those who have to be involved in making that hiring decision have given their input to that process, then there's no issue. Because then you put an end to that blame game that, maybe this came from the board or from a particular executive, or maybe this was the fault of HR. So there are ways of addressing that. So if the processes are clearly defined, I think that's one solution that we can adhere to. Regarding who heads HR, I think it's people. Right? We need to be closer to the people, and that's what is an important role of HR, to bridge that gap between the executive perception and his thinking versus what people think. Right? I know that sometimes if I look at the high cost of living, the inflation, lack of investment, all of that, and still the HR would come out and say that our payroll will double every 5 years because of the annual increment. Business will have only one term to say, and that is nonsense.
Okay.
Right? So how do we mitigate that? So I think that's where we need to come up with various initiatives where we as HR people can also be closer to business, understand their requirement. That, for example, if I look at Western Europe, it takes 27 years to double their payroll. In Pakistan, especially in IT, I think it's 4.5 years. Right. So it's a huge difference.
Ji.
I think one important aspect is that HR has to play the conduit role between the people and the management. And for that, I feel at times our HR has been too inward looking. We are more, as we just heard, bogged down with forms and processes and procedures. I mean, if it's hiring, we should be more concerned about getting the references checked or getting some idea of the person that we are about to hire, rather than, getting fixated with the forms, etc. Similarly, if we are putting out a proposal on salary increment, we should exactly know what our competitors are doing. We should really know what the market is doing, how well it is moving, where it is moving, how it is moving, so that we can put up a logical case to the management. Okay. There is never been an instance where the management hasn't heard you if you've had enough logic and rationale behind what you have put up. If you just go and tell them that, well, people are very upset, they need a raise and we need to increase the salary, I don't think that's a good enough rationale.
Thank you. Rukhsana or Kareem, जो आपकी बहुत सारी examples हैं, there seems to be a preoccupation with hiring and salary and compensation. लेकिन जैसे हुमायूं ने शुरू में कहा कि टैलेंट डेवलपमेंट या रिटेंशन, मैं उस तरफ भी आना चाहता हूँ कि जो एग्जांपल्स हैं हम सिर्फ हायरिंग से, यानी जो HR है उसको हायरिंग से बियॉन्ड क्यों नहीं देखते. आई विल कम टू दैट, बट लेट मी आस्क दिस यानी फ्रॉम आसिफ एंड हुमायूं कि जो what was I going to ask? Okay, let me recall. Okay. हाँ, मैं जानना चाहता हूँ आसिफ एंड हुमायूं कि जो आपकी प्राइवेट कन्वर्सेशंस होती हैं विद HR which are not really in public sphere, वो जो कन्वर्सेशंस है HR आपसे क्या मांगता है, क्या चाहता है, या उनकी क्या प्रायोरिटीज लगती हैं? Is it like really petty issues, or these are strategic business issues, or your worries or their worries? Yeah.
Right. HR basically, I want HR to be an independent person who can sometimes, not always, sometimes disagree with me.
Humayun, can I say not the want part, but what actually happens, that
No.
part? Yeah.
Because HR has a different view than I have, and I depend on the HR to create. Because for me, creating the right morale in the company, avoiding where possible, not suppressing, but avoiding situations where speak-up programs, speak-ups would come up, or open doors would come up, which do not reflect nicely with management. There are at times heated discussions with HR, and there are times when I have to accept and submit to HR, because HR brings the knowledge and wisdom of what, at least in my company, what they are doing in other similar countries. So, and there are occasionally, there are things that this is it. There is no flexibility in the country, we have to do it. Then we find ways to adapt to the situation. So there are heated arguments. HR expects me to protect him from the business verticals. In IBM, the hiring as well as the salary programs and the retention programs are largely driven by the 5 or 6 vertical lines of business, which are matrix oriented, which have their own budget, and the country may not have a 10% salary increase budget. So the services people may have a 4% budget, whereas the sales people may have a 7% budget, or somebody would have a 12% budget. This does create anomalies. And the manager within IBM is actually 50% HR manager. People do not go to HR for day-to-day activities or clarifications. The manager is supposed to be knowledgeable enough to handle the people. So in that context, there is a two-way dialogue, and there are situations where one has to compromise.
Okay, Asif.
For us, there are essentially two conversations that I have with our HR manager who's sitting here, so he can correct me if I'm wrong. But really, the main conversation is about culture and the change and that is being driven. So it is HR's role to do a lot of analysis, to gather data, to look at things in different perspectives, and actually, if you've done all of that, then the case that you come up with, if you come up with a recommendation, emanating out of good analysis, is generally it's a good case, and difficult to say no. And most of the time, that's what happens. So and the conversation is really about if a particular topic has not been looked at in a particular way, then it's my job to actually tell them, okay, no, look at it this way also. Things, have you thought about this? Have we thought about this? So it's actually a collective process where they do the base homework, and then they get guidance from the senior management on where does it go from here. But culture change, because they are more close to people, and I say that with a bit of a little sad feeling that it shouldn't be that way always, but for us it has turned out this way a bit. And the ground level workforce, HR has people who are relating to them on a day-to-day basis, so they are able to come up with most important suggestions and ideas from there, and they have their own mechanisms of getting feedback through to the top.
Right.
I'd just like to add to that. So very good points made. Again, different companies handle it differently as far as the culture, the themes, the values, etc., and changes to that is concerned. Within IBM, it is done by all the managers. And the internal communications department, the group working with the CEO of any country operation will play a major role. Not that HR will not play a role. HR will not be leading these things.
Okay, right, thank you. अच्छा, मैं रुखसाना और करीम आपसे पूछूंगा कि आपकी जो most interactions हैं, are they reactive or proactive? Do you take an agenda, or is it because you have been called into the meeting? क्या आपका जो ज़्यादातर HR है वो क्या करते हैं?
I think it has been mostly proactive, and it's because the HR has that freedom of coming up with various initiatives. That is based on a relationship of trust, which has come over a period, right? So initially there were few Q&As, a debate, but gradually when various initiatives started working, so that's where the leadership also develops a trust. And then the arguments, they start decreasing. So just like Asif mentioned, that if the analysis has been done in a very proper manner, it's very difficult to counter argue that.
Okay. अच्छा, अब जो मेरा ख्याल है हमारे पास मैं रुखसाना मैं आता हूँ, थोड़ा सा मैं सेट कर लूँ, बिकॉज वी ओनली हैव हाफ एन आवर लेफ्ट. ये जो मेरे पास टोटल 1 आवर था, इसमें एक तो मैं अपने जो पैनलिस्ट से मैं चाहूँगा कि हम बिल्कुल शॉर्ट बाइट्स में क्वेश्चन और आंसर करें, दैट्स वन. फिर यह कि आई ओपन दिस टू द फ्लोर एज वेल, आप भी अपने क्वेश्चंस रेज कर सकें. मेरी आपसे एक्सपेक्टेशन ये होगी कि आस्क क्वेश्चंस विच आर बाइटिंग, नॉट द ऑर्डिनरी नन ऑफ द मिल्क क्वेश्चंस, ऐसे जिसके लिए जवाब के लिए इनको थोड़ी सी तकलीफ हो या कोई एक उससे गुजरे एक थिंकिंग रिफ्लेक्शन के प्रोसेस से. ओके रुखसाना, आप कुछ कहना चाह रही थी? ओके राइट. ओके मुझे हुमायूं आपसे पूछना है, इफ़ यू हैव जस्ट कम बैक फ्रॉम अ वेकेशन एंड यू ओनली हैव 5 minutes and probably there are many things and you are going straight into a meeting, उस 5 minutes में who you will see?
My sales guy.
Yeah. Okay. Asif, you?
Probably HR.
HR.
But